Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. Today is Monday, December 29th, 2025. We get together most weekday mornings other than travel days and holidays to talk about the grant and our 501c3 nonprofit. Today's training is going to be most applicable for those of you who are our distribution partners, primarily affiliates, or if you're considering becoming an affiliate. Now, that's a bit ironic because the content of today is actually not for you. The content that we're going to go through is actually what we provide each participant in the free funding proposal. However, we have recorded already an on-demand version of that, which is a little less than 10 minutes, that is up on our YouTube channel. So today's discussion will be going through that same content, but we'll have more narrative, more side discussion between those of us that are on the kind of the client development side, other than beyond what the typical client would care to hear. No secrets, very transparent. So what we found is that we're driving lots and lots of people in to get free funding proposals. Why not? Why wouldn't someone not want to get a free funding proposal? So, excuse me, we're doing hundreds of those a week. What we realized is that we needed a little better next step that once, excuse me, once someone has completed the free funding proposal, even before our staff picks up the phone and calls them, we needed some sort of on-demand training that made sure that we all were on the same page. And so that's what the intention of this is. So again, I'm going through this explaining to you, those of you that are current or prospective distribution partners, the recorded on-demand version for the actual participants is a bit more succinct, but it's the same slides. So we start with, to no surprise, a cover page, funding proposal process, get funding to start or grow a business. It shouldn't be difficult to get funding to start or grow a business. In a few minutes, learn how to access business funding with no out-of-pocket cost. So again, when we're sending this to participants who have just completed the free funding proposal, it's an on-demand version, YouTube-based, and it's less than 10 minutes. We'll likely go more than 10 minutes today because we're having side discussions and answering your questions. So that takes us to the second page of, there's only 4 slides in the PowerPoint deck. This one looks similar to what we have educated you off of before, and it's meant to be a graphical illustration of the 3 steps in the process. So I'll go through those here. Again, our dialogue is more relevant for those of you that are current or prospective distribution partners, but this is the same exact content, same slides that participants receive. So we go ahead and start going through these 3 columns. So step 1 is we want them to understand why they should get a free funding proposal, or if they've already done it, confirm what they've gotten. Then explain step 2, and then step 3. We're going to go through those now. So as far as where do people get a free funding proposal, if you're an affiliate, you'll have your own landing page, and you're going to drive them to your landing page, not to our main one normally. However, remember, the participants are getting this after they've already completed the funding proposal, so it's okay if it refers to the main one. At this point, they've already come through your channel. They're already linked, logged in as your referral. So, what are some of the highlights of getting a free funding proposal? And this hasn't changed, but again, I think it brings us to the conclusion of, well, I think anyone would benefit from this if they're looking for money to start or grow a business. So, first of all, there's no out-of-pocket cost to get funding offers, and that's an important point. Our model is based upon paying for results, not promises. So, our program's not free, but we charge a 10% performance fee to clients after they've had a capital raise, of which we pay half of that, 5%, to you all as our affiliates. But the point is they're paying after they get funding, not before they get funding. They pay after they get funding. When we're generating what we call these first tranche offers, they may end up with several dozen, 10, 20, 30, 40 offers. Everyone receives at least one. But as we go through that, to get them these offers, there's no hard inquiries. So what we're trying to do is proactively address the concerns or objections that people might have, such as, oh, how much is this going to cost me to get started? Do I have to pay anything up front? Is this going to affect my credit? Third is we want to clarify that we have many different lenders and financing types for this first tranche, this first round. Everyone will be approved for at least one offer. Most people receive many, many different offers. Thus, there is no minimum credit score. So, again, this is helping you proactively address a common objection, which is, hey, my credit's not so good. Will it work for me? Absolutely, the process will work for you, work for everyone. Another question you might get is, well, what's the interest rate going to be and what are the payment terms? Well, the truth is we don't know until they fill out the funding proposal and we get them offers. That's the point of the process. But they're not signing some sort of power of attorney. They're not giving up control or their rights. So the truth is they get offers and they can accept them or decline them. And so that is important to a lot of people. The other question that you'll commonly get from people is, well, how long does this take? Well, normally we'll be able to get them from the time that they complete the funding proposal app. Normally within 1 day, we can get them offers, and then they can get funding as soon as the next day. Now, not all the lenders will fund the next day, but almost all of them will fund within just a couple days. But it's true to say as soon as the next day. And then the point that you and I want to be aware of is that this first tranche is designed to help the average, the typical client come in, get an injection of capital, and then have working capital to take them through the rest of the process. So you hear us say over and over, there's no out-of-pocket cost. That's a true statement for the typical client going through the process because they're getting funding up front before they've ever spent a penny. Bam, they're getting funding offers. They're accepting one or more of those offers. They've got money in their bank account. So we're not saying it's a free process because if it's a free process, there'd be no money to pay you. But everything should be funded out of the process. And that's what that last bullet is referencing. So anyone have any questions on step one of the three? And again, for those of you that came in late, we're going through a new resource. The resource has a different version that's canned, that's ready for participants. It's less than 10 minutes. But on today's training, our purpose is to go through it and have more narrative, more conversation, so you can understand it better if you are a current or prospective distribution partner, commonly referred to as an affiliate. All right, Eduardo asked about interest rates. Well, that's the point I tried to make, and it's my fault. And Eduardo does a great job of keeping me humble. We don't know what each person's offers will be until they get the offers. Otherwise, I guess there wouldn't even be a purpose to do a free funding proposal. We just say, here it is. But that's not the way the finance world works. So they're going to go to fundingproposal.org, or they can go to 509 Pacific, or they go to your landing page. They fill out the one-page app. We get them offers, and we don't know what those offers are going to be. We've seen people get over 100,000, people get over 200,000 of first tranche offers. Everyone gets at least one offer, but there is no blanket answer of what everyone will get. Each person gets what they qualify for, but everyone qualifies for at least one. Does that make sense, Eduardo? Okay, so now let's move past this because typically this is going to be seen by individuals who have already completed the funding proposal. We have a 10-minute, less than a 10-minute canned version that's going to be sent to them right after they complete the funding proposal. Today's discussion is longer, more narrative, more discussion, more interaction. So those of you that are current or prospective distribution partners understand the bigger picture. All right, so let's move over to the second step. So now that they've came in, they've come through your landing page or our landing page, they've received offers, they've got money in their bank account. Now what? Now what? Because are we saying that this first round, this first tranche of funding is going to be all the money that they would want and need? Probably not, because it's off their baseline credibility. Where the sausage is made is this middle column, the second step. So let's go through it. So, what I think you and I would understand that frankly not everyone gets is if you want business funding, you do need to have a fundable business. And you'll run into people that ignore that point. No, 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 no. I just need a lot of money. Well, do you qualify? No, no, no. I just need a lot of money. Well, you need to qualify first. What we're talking about having a fundable business. That is our value proposition. Sure, we're helping them get their first tranche, but without this second step, we typically aren't going to qualify for the larger amount. So let's go through what that means specifically. We have a legal team based on attorneys and paralegals that's going to work with each participant after they've gotten their first tranche, their first round of funding, and we're going to work with them to build out their loan package with no out-of-pocket cost. What does that mean? Well, same thing that you and I have talked about many times. When we talk about what is a fundable business is based around the concept of the three C's. Remember, credit, collateral, capacity, also known as cash flow. So, what is it that we can do legally and ethically to help people move from wherever they are, which is over here in first box, to get to where they need to be in the third box? We need to help them with their three C's as well as with their loan packaging. So the first C is credit. And so we help them by adding trade lines onto their business so they have a strong business credit profile, strong Paydex score. And sometimes people will say, well, what business? What if I don't have a business? Well, if they don't have a business, we can provide them one of the free shelf corps. Or if they already have a current business, then we can do the capital raise off of their business. Doesn't matter to us either way, but it is true. There needs to be some business that we're building the credibility off of. But it can be a shelf corp we provide them or a business they already have, or both. So the first C is again credit. Whichever business, our shelf corp or their existing business, adding trade lines, making sure we have a good business credit profile. We're not really focused as much on personal credit because we're focused on business funding, but we have included through the grant a free credit sweep. So individuals that have personal credit issues, we can help them with that again at no cost. So that's the first C, credit. The second C is collateral, and that's what shows on the balance sheet that when the borrower applies for business funding, that it shows the lender that there's collateral, there's assets that can be pledged. So in case the borrower doesn't repay the lender, that the lender's not out of luck. So collateral is very important. For most types of larger business funding, dollar for dollar collateral is needed. Well, what I think you'll witness, as we witness, is a lot of people, they don't have the collateral to match what they need. So we need to do one of two things, either reduce the capital raise amount to match the collateral they have, or increase the collateral to match the requested capital raise. Most people prefer to do the second of those two, the latter. And so we can transfer, and we automatically provide some collateral, but we can provide really as much collateral as they need legally and ethically. So that addresses the second of the three C's. The third C is capacity, otherwise known as cash flow. How does the business look on paper? How does the P&L, the profit and loss, also called income statement, look? How are the bank statements? And a lot of times people will come back and say, "Oh, no, 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 no. I'm a startup business." Well, that's not the right definition of startup, but what they're really trying to say is, "No, no, no, I'm a pre-revenue business." And so we can get funding for pre-revenue businesses, but what would be even better is to not be pre-revenue. So one of the resources that we bring to the table is to assist them in having those daily bank deposits so they look even stronger. So that's where the rubber hits the road, right? We're literally taking them from where they started getting them their initial round of funding, but then helping them build their credibility, their fundability, addressing the three C's. Anyone have questions on the second step? Eduardo's asking about what can be used as collateral, and that's a great point. So, in a normal sense, lenders will look at the business itself, look at the business's balance sheet, and see what assets the business has that can be pledged as collateral. And if that's not enough, then they can turn around and look at the business owner's, what's called PFS, personal financial statement, and see if there's enough assets there. Eduardo's point is a good one that in some cases, what we're spending the money on to buy can be the collateral. So think about when you purchased a home for your family or a car to drive. In both of those cases, those are collateral based loans. If you don't pay your loan on your mortgage, don't pay the lien, don't pay the mortgage, then they'll repossess the home, foreclosing the home. If you don't pay your car loan, they'll repossess the vehicle. So those are examples of collateralized loans on the individual level. So yes, Eduardo, it's certainly possible that what our use of funds are for the funding could bring the collateral itself. That's true. But we'll work with them and figure that out. So again, as an affiliate, it's not your job to go coach people through all this. And so that's kind of the mixed message. Should we even spend the time training you on this process? If you just want to know and it builds credibility and familiarity, that's fine. But what we're not trying to do is to teach you to go do this as an affiliate or prospective affiliate. All you do is refer into your landing page. Our legal team takes care of the rest. All right, so now we've covered step one, which is what you're bringing them into, and then step two, which is this process. Now, again, I know that most people aren't as sophisticated as you, and they really just want box three. They would just as soon skip one and skip two. They just want big business funding. Well, if they already qualify, no argument. But that's not where most of our clients or prospective clients are. Most of them need help with getting some initial liquidity. Most of them need help in building one or more of the three C's. So that's our bread and butter. But you take Sergey, for example, he is only bringing clients that don't need initial funding and that already have fundability. He's bringing clients that are already ready for business funding. So that's possible. But just so you know, most of the marketplace isn't there. Most of you aren't going to have a client pool like Sergey has of people that are already. So the initial steps are important. But it's certainly possible that you have people that are already for business funding. We'll start the same way. We really need to bring them in with the funding proposal because that creates the client relationship and that allows us to know about their business. All right, so now let's talk about what's here in step three. So with that, again, our proposition is for the typical client, they should have no out-of-pocket cost for going through the entire process. The process supports itself. It's important to understand that this isn't just some dollar amount, some 100,000, 250,000, 1 million, 5 million. We're working with the client to build out the loan package, to build out their fundability, to qualify what they want. And so we have a specific process that we go through to ask them, hey, client, what is it that you want in terms of dollar amount and how's the money going to be used? So the client is always in control, and it's important to understand that they're determining the amount of their capital raise, not you or us. Lots of different funding options, so don't worry about that. We can access any or all, and we have some innovative options that many others don't have access to or are not familiar with. Again, process is designed, no out-of-pocket costs from beginning to end for the average client. Are there going to be exceptions? Sure, there's exceptions to everything. But in general, the average client will come in, get multiple offers, get cash in their pocket, and then we'll be able to go through the process without them having any out-of-pocket costs. That's the design. And then again, we've taken the risk away from the client because separate from the fact that there's no upfront cost, we're also guaranteeing that we won't waste their time. In our agreement, our legally enforceable agreement, we're on the hook. You're not, we are, that we guarantee them a capital raise. So this three-step process is meant to help them understand. So when they look at the client version of this, it's a little more succinct because I'm trying to give you more narrative and more background. But the bottom line is we want to clarify to the prospect, especially those, I shouldn't say prospect, the client, once they've completed the funding proposal, want to reiterate what they're going to get from that, talk about what happens next to get to the end goal. And again, I know people could skip these first two steps. They just want to go to the third, but that's too good to be true. I don't want to say that people are looking for a scam because I don't think they're trying to be manipulative. But a lot of people are looking for a scam. They don't really want a free funding proposal. They really don't want to become more fundable. They just want large amounts of money. Well, if they don't qualify, that's too good to be true. That's why we need to go through the process. All right. So then that takes us to why should they work with us? Because there's lots of options out there. But I don't believe that there are any options that are better than us in what we do. So let's try to defend that. First of all, we're administering this through a grant, through a 501c3 nonprofit. We are licensed, bonded, and insured. So, we're going to do what we promise. We do have a legal based model with attorneys and paralegals. And fourth gets back to the point we were making on the prior slide. We help people legally and ethically become qualified for funding. We're helping them get from where they're at to where they need to be. And again, I know that's not what most of your prospective clients are thinking. They think they're fucking great and they just want $1 million. Well, but if we don't look good enough on paper, we're not going to get approved. So that's why our process is so important to help the average person get from where they're at to where they need to be. Anyone can participate. You don't need to screen people based upon time in business. They can even have no business. Remember, we can provide them a shelf corp. They don't need to be eliminated due to credit or any other reason. Another thing that makes us different, why they should work with us, is the fact that we get them that first tranche of funding right away, and everyone gets at least one offer. And then again, we have a legal and ethical approach where we're going to help them go from where they're at to where they need to be able to qualify for that larger amount. And that can include if they need from us the shelf corp, we can provide a free shelf corp. If they need help building credit worthiness, we can do that, personal or business. If they need help with collateral, we can cover the collateral shortfall, we can transfer collateral. If they need help with capacity, we can provide daily deposits. All right. Now I'm getting questions from Sergey and others, and you all can ask me a million questions. Can a red-headed person from Iowa do this? I mean, anyone can participate as long as they're an adult. Of course, you have to be 18 or older. All right. And then another reason that clients should want to get a free funding proposal from you as an affiliate or prospective affiliate and go through the process is they're not paying up front. They're only paying off results. Now, you'll get once in a while a smartass says, well, I don't want to pay anything for any help. Well, then do it yourself or just go to the bank. But in our society, we don't go to a restaurant and expect a free meal. We don't go to the mall and expect a free pair of jeans. Normally, we pay for value that we receive. And so in our case, we charge the participant after their capital raise. It's 10%. And of that, half goes to you, 5%. And then the last reason that they should work with us, as stated here, is they're in control. So it's not like, oh, I can only get 100,000, this won't work, or I need whatever dollar amount. We work with them to identify how much money they need, what their uses of funds are, so we can build out the package. All right, final slide is a reiteration looking at it slightly different of the three simple steps. So with that, number one, we're going to help them apply for a funding proposal. They can do that on 509pacific.org, on freefundingproposal.org, or fundingproposal.org, or on your landing page. In most cases, they will have already done that because we're sending this to them after they have completed the funding proposal. But just in case they're seeing this and they haven't done it yet, we clarify that's where they need to start. Now, from your best interest, you want to be coordinating that so that client, their capital raise is linked to you, so you make the 5%. On 509pacific.org, we have success stories we've added. We have information about our key funding partners, interest rates, and so forth. So for those that really want more information and dig in, there's lots of information in one spot, 509pacific.org. And we did add another training video over the holiday weekend. So they just need to go one spot to get information if they want more, need more. We also have our affiliate program, which is obviously optional. There's no cost to be an affiliate, but it's a great way to help others and earn income. And that resource is also on 509pacific.org. So, step one, though, really is get that free funding proposal. That's how they come into the system. It's how we create a client relationship. That's how we get baseline data to see where they're at and to get them offers. Okay. So then step two, what will happen is once the free funding proposal comes in, one of our legal team's going to reach out to them, a real person calling them. And that legal advisor is going to review whatever offer or offers that they've received and help them get financing immediately, quickly, promptly. Most people will get their first tranche, their first round next day or within just a couple days. So they're seeing results quickly. And then also you're earning commissions quickly. So then the third of the final three steps is now they're going to work with a different group of people. So on step two, they're working with our legal team, helping them with their first tranche. Once they've done that, now they work with our funding advisors, which I'm one of. I believe all, or at least most of our funding advisors used to work for the SBA and or a bank. So we have experience in business lending and loan packaging. So they only get access to our funding advisors after they've accepted their first tranche because that's the way the process works. Some people will sign up and they want to start working with the funding advisors right away. No, we have to kind of protect the time and availability of the funding advisors so they can focus on clients that are in the funding process. Prior to that, the applicants do not work with the funding advisors. They're going to work with a member of our legal team to get them their first tranche, as stated. Our job, and we guarantee it, is to help them have a fundable business based upon their capital request. Whatever is needed legally and ethically, we're going to help them with. So if they need the shelf corp, they need the entity, we'll provide it. If they need a business plan, financial forecast, we'll provide it. If they need help with credit, collateral, capacity, the three C's, we're going to provide that so they look good on paper. And then finally, it is important that for you and them to know that not all lenders are the same. We have some unique lender relationships, everything from asset-based loans to we talked about three of our new preferred lender relationships, which is also posted on 509pacific.org now, like the Chapman Fund. So not only can we provide the packaging and the credibility, we have the lender relationships to follow through. So those are the four slides. Now, when you and I just went through it, it took us a while. It took us about 30 minutes. But we know that the average client won't allocate that much time, so we've compressed it down to about 10 minutes. This is the longer version, so you're able to understand more detail. But again, let me go back to this main slide. In the role of an affiliate, which is what most of you are, all you really need to do is drive them to your landing page and help them apply for a funding proposal. It's not your job to service them, to train them. We keep it simple. And typically, those of you that speak the least make the most amount of money. All right, so let's look at some of the questions, comments you all have. Yes, this works for for-profits and nonprofits. And in some cases, we've had nonprofits that we formed a for-profit subsidiary to do the capital raise. But as long as as long as they have an interest in starting or growing a business and getting funding for it, we can help them. I don't think that you need to worry, as some of you are, will it work for a 20-year-old? Will it work for that redheaded uh, person in Des Moines, Iowa? We don't need to vet through. It's designed to work for anyone. Let's see. What other questions? Cameron asked about alternatives. Well, so regardless of what any of your perspectives are or my perspective, there's a financial industry out there, and there's lots of lenders that desperately want to loan money to qualified businesses. What we do, you and I, what we do is help people qualify. So we get them their first tranche right away. We build business fundability so then we can go for the large capital raise. Again. I know that Sergey and some of you have people that don't need first tranche. They don't need any help. They have a perfect business. They just need funding, and that's fine. But that's not the norm. That's not the norm. Most people will want to go through those three steps. All right. Joe's asking about how did they get this, and that's a very practical question. So our new process as of today, which is Monday, December 29th, each person that completes a free funding proposal, whether it be through our main site or through your unique landing page, the first communication they're going to get is going to be a text, and we send it to them via text versus email because it has a higher delivery, higher read rate, and it's going to have a link to the 10-minute client version of this, and that it's up on our YouTube channel as well. So with that, we want to reiterate to them, okay, you signed up for the free funding proposal. What does that mean? Where do we go from here? We want that to happen before we have our legal team reach out to them, because what was happening is our legal team would run out of time, run out of energy to have to tell the whole story over and over. So if these folks are competent and serious, they filled out the funding app, they said they want funding, we have offers for them, but before we even get into the offers, normally we're going to want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and then we assign one of the attorneys or paralegals to work with them one-on-one to accept those offers. Then they'll start working with our funding advisors on the build to qualify for the larger. Yes, it's possible that people come in and they get as much as they need off of their first tranche. So we're just done. And I think that's what Sergey's asking. Yeah, some people will just come in and let's say we get them 250,000 off their first tranche. They're saying, hey, that's all that they needed. Fine. Project completed, success. They get their 250,000. You get your 5% of that, which would be what, 12,500 in commissions. But most of the time, the first tranche is not the entire amount of capital raise needed. In most cases, we need to do this work to be able to qualify for the larger amount. All right, we'll close out a couple remaining questions. Can a client do this for multiple companies? Yes. Can they do it for multiple companies at one time? Yes. Can we do multiple rounds of funding for one company? Yes. But keep it simple. I don't want to minimize your intelligence or your drive or your experience, but as an affiliate, if you can just be good at driving people to your landing page, our legal team can do all the work. We put this together primarily as a resource for the individuals that have completed the funding proposal so they know the process. And then secondly, today's training was designed to get you all up to speed and how it can be a resource for you and your referred clients. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Let us know if you need anything. Our phone number 903-200-8781. We are interviewing. I received 4 resumes from our staffing company to review, which I've not done yet. We're going to be hiring a full-time affiliate manager who will be working with you all directly here, hopefully in the next 30 days. But in the meantime, just give us a call if you need assistance as an affiliate. But as long as you have your landing page, There's not really much anything else you need. You should have the link and you refer in and you get paid. Thanks, everyone. See you back tomorrow morning, I hope. Have a good day. Bye bye.